Hi, everybody. It's Laura Eisenhower. I am joined by a very special guest, Carol Noonan. Thank you so much, Carol, for joining me.
Hi, Laura. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. Really delighted. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, yes. Wonderful to have you. So Carol Ann Noonan is a naturally gifted psychic, medium, and clairvoyant since birth and has been a channeler for the Pleiadians since early childhood. Carol has used her gifts for healing and helping others for many years and is currently planning her second book on her channeled information from the Pleiadians. Her website is www.thepleiadianchild.com. Wow, that's so awesome. And I know one of the reasons we're gathering today is because there are some urgent messages coming in. You contacted me and then something came up that was shared on Facebook about mandatory vaccines, and then it was just clear, like, we got to talk, and we got to talk immediately. So give us sort of the downloads or what's coming through and what the biggest of urgencies are for us to hear.
Okay. Well, let me just say, first of all, that I saw your declaration of sovereignty and I really resonated with it. And I've seen it resonate with a lot of other people via the internet. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for doing that, because it's reached a lot of people where it's helped them to stand in their own power and strength and self-realization as well. So I just wanted to say a big thank you for actually doing that. And your work has helped a tremendous amount of people along the way. I'm sure I know it has.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so when this all kicked off, I didn't really see it coming. But so I was quite surprised by it, because I had a load of personal stuff going on as well, which kind of which I won't go into here, but it is connected to why I didn't see it coming. So I went into the garden and I started to channel the Pleiadians again, because I hadn't for a while. And I was writing down the information and I got a whole load of information. So I reconnected with them and the information has been coming in quite thick and fast. I do tend to talk quite fast, Laura, when I'm in the zone. But anyone that knows me knows that when I'm just by myself with them, I don't talk as fast. I'll get quite energetic when I'm talking, when I'm working, when I'm channeling. So one of the most important things they've showed me is about the Atlantis Connection. What's new to me also is 13. Now I know that I've heard you talk about 13, so I'm looking for another word of instead of no, because I believe that you'll be interested in this. So they've told me a lot about 13 in my previous book, which I will read out in a minute. Actually, I'll just do that now. So this is my previous book. I'm going to read from now, because a lot of the channeling I do actually forget for various reasons. One of the reasons being that I do get targeted and I do get memory kind of glitches. Okay, so the 13 information was lost, destroyed, changed during the Great Fire. So there's 13 astrology signs, 13 ancient tribes, 13 crystal skulls, 13 sacred sites, 13 sacred geometrical shapes, 13 statues on Easter Island, which would be the 13 basalt Mao statues on Easter Island. So there's a group of 13 statues on Easter Island. 13 chakras, 13 aura levels, and 13 earth chakras. So 13 has great meaning. And then I also read another section in the book that is probably relevant to our times at the moment, just talking about the ascension and everything. I'm not going to read that out because it's too long, but it's funny how I've that paragraph about the ascension came directly after the 13. So what they've told me recently is that there's 13, and this is new information for me, I didn't know this, but this is 13 DNA strands that we either had them in the past or we're going to have them in the future. So that's new to me. And they've showed me that if you take a coil of a piece of string, and if you pull it until it's straight, and then release it, it will go back to its original coil shape, which is what's happening with our DNA, because our DNA was changed at the time of Atlantis, I've been told. And by negative ET energies, so our DNA was changed, was manipulated in a negative way, and we're now going, the time we're in now is very connected to Atlantis. The time frame is almost parallel, and so there's so much information they've been giving me over the years that is actually very much to do with this time frame that we're in now, and I hadn't realized that when I started channeling. But stars are aligning up. Okay, I just needed to catch my breath there, sorry. So the connection to Atlantis, what they showed me at the time of the downfall of Atlantis is that something large hit the Earth, which caused the Earth to change its axis. So the Earth was knocked off its natural axis, and the poles shifted. Negative, around the same time, negative energy, negative ET energy came in. Now, a question in my own mind is, that I've had for a number of years, is, was the meteor accidental or was it on purpose? That's a question I've been asking for years, kind of even subconsciously in the back of my mind. But anyway, so the negative ET energy, or the cabal, or the black hats, or the reptilians, whatever you want to call them. I'm not 100% certain they were reptilians. I'm just using that as a reference point, but they probably were. They came in and overtook Atlantis, and the Atlanteans didn't see it coming, but we do. So that's the difference between now and Atlantis. We do see it coming. There's major shifts coming. So, okay, thanks. Sorry, I'm
No, that's
channel
great.
as I'm talking. So so everything was shifted at the time of Atlantis. Our DNA was manipulated, where they took away strands and changed it, and everything shifted. And what's happening now, because the Atlanteans were much more evolved, much more, everything was heightened with the Atlanteans, so they were much more evolved, much more aware, much more conscious, a higher state of being, a higher state of awareness, a higher state of consciousness. And when they interfered with the DNA, it took away all of that, and it also took away their ability to live a lot longer, and took away their ability, our ability to communicate with our star brothers and our star beings, and there was a veil of amnesia put around the Earth as well. So there's a lot of things going on. It's not just coronavirus, and I've kind of jumped in at the deep end, which is okay, because that's normally how I flow in at the deep end. So what's happening now on Earth is that everything is shifting back. Everything is shifting back. Earth is shifting. We are shifting. And what affects us on Earth, what affects the Earth and us on Earth, affects everything within the universe. It's not just about Earth and them wanting to get ownership of the Earth. So this has vast effects that ripple out. We know we're not alone on Earth. We've never been alone, and we don't come from here. We come from a multitude of places within the universe. So everything is shifting back now onto its natural axis, and the Earth is shifting back onto its natural axis, which will affect the weather, And I have been told that the weather there's going to be major catastrophic events on Earth, but it's not going to happen all in a day. So it's already started. The weather changes have already started, and there's more to come. I keep seeing Africa, and in my mind's eye, I keep seeing Africa and wild animals that are very fearful, like lions and tigers and giraffes. So I kind of drawn to Africa, where there's some major weather to happen there, major storm or weather to happen there that will create a fear in the animals, and through the fear they become aggressive. Okay, so the weather changes. Okay, and also the birds. They did tell me that the birds are, there's something strange going on with the birds. I wrote this a few weeks ago, and there are things being reported now on Facebook where people are posting things about the birds. Okay, so also the stars are lining up. So our DNA, we are getting assisted with our DNA, where it's going back to its original blueprint, its original natural state, where we are able to access and connect with star beings and beings like the Pleiadians and multidimensionals, and a lot of us have already started to do that. So yes, our DNA is naturally going back to its original blueprint, but we are also getting help and assistance with that. So yeah, there's major changes going on at the moment.
So with the pandemic and the, just the madness of it all, and what we're, kind of, seeing with 5G rollout and mandatory vaccinations, what kind of information is coming into you about just kind of like this crossroads we're at, and what's still attainable and what is being, threatened? Do you see like a bifurcation happening, or do you see just a big ripple effect where everybody just kind of awakens and we take down these dark agendas? Or, I mean, not to like project too much about the future, because it's really about the now, but yeah, what kind of information are you getting about what we're currently dealing with, like, in the world?
Okay. Great question. There's a lot of questions there. Okay, so one of the things, I just want to cover this, Laura, if it's okay. One of the things they did show me as well is that there's two waves of energy hitting the Earth at the moment. One is positive and one is negative. And they show me quite visually in images, because it's easier for me that way. So it's like a beam of light coming down, a beam of light and a beam of dark. So one is positive and one is negative, and they're hitting the Earth at the moment, and they're going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And then what's going to happen is, like, and these are energetic waves, so they're going to twist the Earth into two and pull it apart energetically, not physically. Pull it apart so it becomes two. One will go into a higher dimension, or a higher awareness, or a higher consciousness, or a higher state of being, and the other one will either stay where it is at the same level, or it will drop into a lower density, a lower frequency, a lower state of awareness, and the two will become separate. And that's how the Earth will be divided into two different Earths, because I did hear that said to me.
So two different, like, one would be artificial timeline, or into like a phantom Earth, and the other would be, seeing things improve and the DNA returning, or our capacity to activate our dormant DNA.
I think one is going into I think the positive one is, I feel that the positive one is going to raise its awareness and consciousness, because oil and water don't mix. They don't mix. So on a mass scale, I'm talking about positive and negative, where they can no longer coincide with each other, because they're vibrating against each other, and they're not gelling with each other, so they can't coexist anymore. And that's where we're at the moment. And so they're repelling like magnets against each other. So one is going to ascend and go into a higher frequency, a higher dimension, a higher space. I don't know if it's a different, well, I guess it would be a different timeline, but the other one is either going to stay where it is or lower into a lower frequency. So, or possibly both. But that's really going more into it, and I haven't got that info yet. So that's what I've been shown. So it's the separating of the polarities, of the divide, of the them and us, so in that sense, we're also going back to the Atlantean times, where we were operating at a higher frequency. There wasn't any negative until the downfall of Atlantis. But I've also been told that Atlantis will raise again. Now, I'm not 100% sure if that's physical. I kind of feel it is physical. Because I was shown that Atlantis was at, and where Antarctica is now, and there is proof and evidence that leads to that as well. But I'm not a researcher. I'm just purely a channel for the Pleiadians.
You get them. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go on, Laura.
Like a balance, because seems like the downfall of Atlantis had a lot to do with, the growing, imbalance of polarity. The Lemurian Holocaust that led to, the Atlantean, culture that ended up destroying itself. Due to the dark power. So do you see like the balance of masculine and feminine, even though the polarity is splitting, that the positive one though holds that level of balance to like overcome the mistakes of the of how
absolutely.
we advance civilizations?
Absolutely. What I've been shown is that we didn't, at the time of Atlantis, we didn't see it coming. Or the Atlanteans didn't see it coming. But we do see it coming now. And so therefore they didn't have a choice because they didn't have a choice because they didn't see it coming, but we see it coming. So we have a choice now. And it is very much about ascension and raising our consciousness and raising our frequency. I do see a positive outcome. And it's also about not playing into the fear and the Luciferian agenda, because years ago when I started to channel, I was shown the facade and the veil of amnesia, and like yourself, I was talking about this stuff for years and people weren't getting it, but now people are waking up to what's really going on. So I know we're pushed for time, but this is a time frame.
Don't worry about time.
Okay. So this is the time frame we're in. We've got a short period of time. What's really important is that we raise our energy, raise our awareness, raise our frequency, and lift each other up, lift ourselves up. It's all about frequency and energy. It's a war on humanity's consciousness. And we need to take our power back. We need to stand in our own shoes. We've become so divided and separate from each other, and so what they showed me in the very beginning of my channeling then is that all these systems were put into place, and organizations and governments and schools and food systems and money and all of the different systems that we have on earth, and they were ruled by negative ET agendas, or the cabal, or the black cats, whatever you want to call it, or Illuminati or Luciferian, and they're all running the show. And yes, they have people in place or puppets in place doing their work for them, some unconsciously, some consciously, on varying levels and varying degrees. But that's really what's going on, and we're not alone. We've never been alone. So that there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and schools are where it really starts for kids. And I could go into a whole subject on that as well.
So there was some weird posts going around yesterday on the internet. I mean, some countries or some people are just saying, they're really getting down to like, forcing, vaccinations. It's so hard to know what's real and what's not real. So as long as something hasn't fully manifested, I always feel like we still have the ability to steer it. As long as it's not taken a huge hold in the physical plane, in a manifested way, we still have an opportunity to shift the actual energy. But you're in the UK. I mean, is this stuff like knocking on people's door? I mean, I know there's still some information that you're going to be looking into about it, but what happens like for the souls that might all of a sudden begin their awakening while they have gotten more entrenched in these dark agendas? Say they get, you know, vaccinated and the symptoms haven't quite hit them yet, and all of a sudden they just, you know, or say there's, you know, greater lockdown to the point of, you know, us as civilians not having a whole lot of say because of the military component and the fact that, you know, they can create a lot of harm and detain people and injure people even if they feel something is out of control. You know, I mean, just like these books have been written about the New World Order agendas and how far that they could, you know, go. What happens when that takes another notch in a direction of, I mean, how do we counteract something that's becoming so physical and so in our face? If our consciousness begins to shift and awaken. Now, for a lot of us, we've been awakened for a while, but those that are, I mean, I don't like that concept of, oh, it's too late for them, right? So how would you address the, wow, okay, well, you kind of missed your opportunity. I mean, do you believe that the door just clamps down and, you know, it's going to be another 26,000 year cycle and then they have an opportunity to ascend? And right now is the deciding factor? Or do you feel like there's still a lot of wiggle room as long as one eventually comes around and awakens and even the worst of clampdowns can begin to lift because our consciousness is going to direct a shift in our physical environment? I mean, are we that powerful, or what are your thoughts?
I think we are. I think we are enormously powerful, and we've been taught the very opposite is true. So we're starting now to gradually take our power back. When I say we, I'm talking about normal people or people that are just starting to wake up now, because we've had, you know, I've been waking up since I was a child in various stages. So as I'm sure you were as well, Laura, from what I've seen. So we've had time to process, to integrate, to become aware and to wake up again and again and again and again on to different things and different levels and different awarenesses. So we've had time to integrate and this knowledge and awareness and wisdom within our bodies and within ourselves, which is what it does take most of the time. So I actually feel quite sorry for the people that are just waking up now and really struggling with things. And I think there's going to be a wave of people who are just waking up now, who really need help and assistance, and we need to be there for them. I feel I made a download of information. I think it was last week where I felt I had to do it, and because I was getting downloads of information, and it was to do with reaching the First Nations of Native America, of Africa, of India, of the Aborigines, of all the different First Nations, because they had their power taken away, and reaching them and getting them to do sacred ceremony and to stand up and to gather their tribes to reach people. So I feel that there is so much going on at the moment, your questions are kind of huge, which is great. But so I've never before believed in protesting, because when you protest, you're using the power of creating what you want. So when you focus on something, by protesting it, you're creating more of that thing, whatever it is. So I've never believed in protesting until now, and now I would go and protest, absolutely, where in the past I would never protest against anything because you create more of that. But now I've come to the belief of where I've changed my mind. I'm in the belief that we absolutely do need to be love and light, and I do see a positive outcome. However, it is up to us, because we're wavering in the balance. This is a time frame that we have, and it's in the balance. We're on the precipice of change, but it's I feel last week it was still hanging in the balance. Now I feel that we are more, that we are a step further in the right direction. We are a step further in the right direction energetically. And the more people that we can get on board, the quicker the ship is going to go, or the quicker we're going to be able to steer and the consciousness of the planet and humanity in the right direction. So it is a time frame, and I do feel there's a positive outcome, but we need to get more people on board as we possibly can. We do need to protest. We do need to say, no, this is not okay. Because if we don't speak up and stand up and speak our truth and say, this is not okay, this is not right, and I'm not going to stand by and watch this happen, or sit and watch the telly while this is happening, because then it becomes a karmic debt as well that we need to repay. So we do need to take action. We need to take action and wake up and be a voice for other people and help to raise the consciousness of humanity. So, you know, it's not just about meditating and being love. We need to be part of this. And, you know, even within the spiritual groups, like the UFO people and the spiritual people and the spiritualists and the Reiki healers and the shamanic practitioners and the shamans, there seems to be a lot of divide amongst them. So what it really comes down to is that we need to unite, even within the spiritual fields. We need to unite and come together. You know, we are brothers and sisters. We are each other. You know, I've looked at in someone's eyes once, and I saw myself reflected back at myself, and that was just one experience of many that I've had, where I know that we are all connected to each other. So we need to stop the nonsense that we are separate from the guy in Africa or the Muslim in wherever, or the Australian or the Aborigine or the man or the woman or the child or the black or the white or the young or the old. Because when it comes down to it, we are all connected, and we are here en masse, and we need we need to shift our perspective, because what we've been told, everything we've been told, is a lie. You know, we're not from here. We're not separate from each other. That's a lie that we've been told, or a program. We've been programmed to believe that we're separate from each other, and we're absolutely not. The very opposite is true. So we do need to unite.
Right. And so everything that they're trying to do just seems symbolic, because everything about the Kabbalah is using symbology, you know, and they've tampered with symbols and sacred geometries and show in their symbolism, you know, kind of what they're doing. So the symbolism of wearing a mask is almost like, okay, don't speak. We're seeing a lot of censorship. The distancing, you know, is almost symbolic of let's not unify. And at the same time, you know, it's very obvious that these messages are getting louder and louder. I mean, I'm right there with you. Just what's being targeted is the very thing that we need to address. Unity consciousness, coming together. Even if we can't physically touch, that we connect our consciousness, right? So
that's very important, because it's because consciousness, if you have one little spark of energy, the way they show it to me is, if you imagine one light on Earth, and then that spreads to the next place and the next place and the next place, so it divides and it spreads. Well, it doesn't divide, it multiplies and spreads out. So that little one light can reach 10, and then it just keeps multiplying as you go out. So that's how I see consciousness and awareness and waking up and spreading. You know, if you, it's like almost like I can't think of the word for it. The little I'm sorry, Laura, I can't think of the word.
I'll try and help. I'm trying to see if I can help you remember what you're trying to.
It's a remedy. It's a form of remedies, natural remedies.
So there's essential oils. There's
begins with H.
begins with an H? Is it an herb, a remedy?
It's a remedy system. Begins with H.
Homeopathy?
Yeah, that's it. Homeopathy. So homeopathy, as my understanding, works on the basis that if you put 1 drop of something into water, it will spread. And contaminate is the wrong word, but it will multiply and multiply. That's why you only need 1 or 2 drops. So that's how I see consciousness spreading and working and shifting. And that is also part of why we are being kept apart, in my belief, in my understanding. Because if you've got, like, for example, if you were out there talking now, Laura, in your public domain, and you were spreading the message of what you know to be true, and I was out there now, being able to publicly speak in London would be my nearest city, you know, and I was talking and spreading the message, those, I would have some effect on those people in the audience, the people I'm connecting with, and they would have an effect on their families and their families and their families, which is why we're being, partly why we're being kept apart, because energy flows, it spreads, it's contagious, it has fluidity. It's not confined to you know, when if you're standing in a room with someone who is, and there could be thousands of people in between you, but if you have eye contact, and that person loves you, you will feel it. You will feel it. It doesn't matter about the distance in between, or the space in between, or the people in between. So energy is, you can gap the divide of, or the distance between spaces. So you can connect energies, whatever the distance or space in between.
So what yes, totally. What do you know about the sort of ET government treaties and the Pleiadian connection, maybe with Eisenhower? Do you get any of those kind of downloads? Or because I'm sure, you know, there's not every, you know, message under the sun can maybe all go to one person. So if not a whole lot has come through in regards to that, we can totally pass. But I was just curious, the Pleiadian involvement in the world on a human level, beyond, you know, coming through, you know, those that are, you know, a part of those, you know, groups and councils that have come to Earth, like yourself. Has anything come through as far as how they've interacted with the governments, or anything about the Eisenhower administration that, and then we'll move on real quick. I just had a quick thought on asking that.
The only thing they've said to me in the past is that the governments are well aware of us. The governments are well aware of us. So I don't know, Laura. I don't know. It's a question I will ask them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the messages that are coming through to you are specific to your mission here. And, you know, and there's just a lot to, you know, these groups. So more specific to you. Okay. So you've been a channel since childhood, and you're a Pleiadian hybrid, contactee and UFO experiencer. Was this a lot more heightened as a child, or is it just as available now as it was when you were younger?
Well, I had such an unusual, strange, horrendous, horrible, and beautiful childhood. Everything rolled into one from a very young age. And I describe it as being born into hell. I really do, because of the level of poverty, because of the level of abuse, because of the level of everything. But yet, at the same time, I was having these beautiful out-of-body experiences and connecting to spirit and my guides and the Pleiadians. And at the time, I didn't know that they were the Pleiadians. I just thought, oh, it's spirit, or it's my guides, or I had no idea. And it got to the point where I was 12 and I just wanted out. I didn't want to be here. Didn't want to be here. It wasn't a cry for help or anything like that. And I went and lay on my bed, and I was really, you know, sobbing my heart out. And the next thing I knew, I was in the corner of my room looking down on myself. And Jesus came to me, and I was on the verge of committing suicide and taking tablets. I just wanted out. I didn't want to be here. I was done. And Jesus came to me, and he took me on a very long journey for about 3 or 4 hours. And when I came back, it was very peaceful, very blissful for about 3 or 4 weeks. And then it gradually ebbed away. But it was such a beautiful, profound experience. You know, without it, I wouldn't be here now. But he showed me things for myself, and why I was here, why I needed to experience the things I was, and why I needed to experience on a karmic level the abuse I was and the situations and all of it. Because it's only through experience that we learn. It's only through experience we learn. It's not through books. It's not through absorbing information. That's all mental stuff. We learn and we experience through experience that we have. So that was part of my own soul lesson, karmic debt, or experience that I needed to experience in order to come out the other side, in my understanding, to come out the other side and connect to my higher self, or the Pleiadians, because I don't believe without those experiences I would have been able to, you know. And so when I came back from that experience, I was very blissful. And then when Jesus showed me my picture and the smaller reason for me being here, he showed me the bigger picture of humanity and what was really going on. I've now come to understand and believe that he is Pleiadian energy. Absolutely. So I didn't remember the connection to the Pleiadians until 2010, I think it was, when I started doing shamanic courses in Ireland. And I began to have memories during the shamanic courses. And I'd already started to channel them at the time. But during the shamanic courses in Ireland, I began to have memories of having connected to them as a child. So I'd already started to channel them, and then I began to have memories of having connected to them as a child. So it kind of is still unfolding for me, but I do get heavily negatively targeted by, and have done for many years since I can remember. Probably very aware of it since I started to consciously channel the Pleiadians, where I've been targeted by negative military, negative black ops, negative ET energies, all kind of part of the same thing. One dream I had recently, Laura, was I was taken up to okay, I'm going to have to go into this. I didn't really want to, but I met a guy, I think it was 2 years ago, and was in a relationship with him for 2 years. And then became to fully realize within the relationship, because we were living together, that no, it wasn't until after he left, but after he left, I began to realize that he was like an agent that had been sent to stop me upon my journey, which I find, I can't find the words to describe how I find it, but anyway, the whole experience was quite traumatic, to say the least. But basically they wanted to get me to work for them. And so anyway, to cut a long story short, I didn't really want to share that, but that's okay. The reason I'm mentioning it is because I had a dream within the last couple of months where I was taken up to Mars, and I didn't know where I was in the dream. It was a real dream. It was on the astral. So I was taken to Mars, and I was shown I was with a woman who her energy didn't feel good. She didn't feel right, but she had long dark hair, and it was quite curly, probably just above the waist. But anyway, she was showing me to look over there, so I looked over there, and to my right, I was seeing bulldozers and a lot of building work, and they were building land, and they were building. There seemed to be a sense of urgency in order to get the land ready and get the land built and prepared. And I'm not sure what they were building on the land, but there was a sense of urgency with it that needed to get this done quickly and organized. And that was about a month or two before the coronavirus kicked off. Now, I'm wondering if why they're building that, what they're building that, what their intention is. Are they going to need it for the people that want to go off world, or is there going to be an influx of people? Why are they, what is the hurry with that? So yeah.
Interesting. So, I mean, this is what's happening on a larger scale level is, you know, this interference, this targeting, so that we can't fully connect with our higher self and our galactic heritage and upgrade our DNA. And right now it's like super duper breathing down the neck of all of the world, every country, everybody is now seeing it for what it is, a lot more than they've ever been able to, because there's been so many stories about people who have been personally targeted. Now people are starting to see, wow, you know, the human race has been targeted, and it's getting more and more clear. And so as this becomes more and more clear, I guess that's when the bifurcation and the splitting is going to, you know, become stronger. But it seems, would you say there's sort of a bridge between the two right now, where there's still, you know, this connecting point? Obviously, you know, they're not quite split yet, but as it begins to split, that there's still a bit of a connecting point, like a bridge. And also, I mean, we kind of cover that, you know,
I'm sorry, look, I'm sorry, can you just, what do you mean by the bridge?
So if there's a bifurcation, there must still be, you know, a bit of a bridge as it begins to split for a temporary amount of time, where souls still have the choice or opportunity to turn things around. But as things get more and more physical and manifested, it's going to become a lot more difficult. So where do you find us, you know, currently? You know, what would be the urgent message, and how would you, you know, want to just really appeal to just the minds of all who are listening that are coming across this information for the first time? How would you, you know, almost like verbalize a warning in connection to also some of these messages that have been coming through? Like what is the most important thing that one can hear right now in these times, maybe starting from a place of, I don't know, just kind of coming to terms with, you know, this awakening. So let me maybe give an example. Somebody who might be a doctor or a teacher or in a profession where there isn't a whole lot of freedom or choice. Like they might have this other separate life where they're awakening and they're researching and they're seeing through stuff, and they just feel like, I don't know, they either are going to try and wake people up or they're going to have to leave their job. Like I just talked to somebody who they're doing forced vaccinations and he had to actually quit, and that's in Australia. So, you know, it's a tough thing because there's a lot of people that aren't going to be willing to do what he did. So I guess, I don't know, like, what do you think, you know, we're up against? It's just the hope that like you said, this is the time, if anybody is going to protest, like, and say no. But, yeah, I don't know. I just want to go back to kind of like the current times and any other messages that might be coming through, I guess. And yeah, when you see sort of, you know, the potential of this, you know, split occurring, that really does mean that we're not at the mercy of those who choose not to wake up. So that even if there is mandatory vaccinations, those who have been awake, those who are connecting with higher self, aren't going to experience that timeline, even though we're seeing signs of it in our, you know, like we're still seeing that could, you know, potentially happen. I mean, you know what I mean? So as this bifurcation sort of happens, but we're still witness to the darker possibility, are we at the mercy of what humanity decides? Or as long as you're awake, you're going to, you know, move into this next level?
We're never victims. We're never victims. Even the horrendous atrocities, for whatever reason, and I know a lot of people are going to cringe at that, but I believe even the horrendous atrocities that has happened to us individually and humanity as a whole, and I'm thinking of Nazi Germany as I'm talking, but you know, we've needed to experience that to realize that we are not that energy. You know, that is not who we are. We do not like going to war. We do not. So there's two different energies or agendas going on Earth. One is positive and one is negative, and negative is trying to overthrow the positive, and it is a war about for Earth.
Oh, let me just jump in real quick. I guess what I'm trying to say is a well-intentioned person who doesn't feel like they can speak up. Where are they in all this? Okay, but keep going. Just to throw that.
Thanks, Laura. No, I will get to all of the questions, hopefully, as many as I can, because there's a lot of information there that needs to come through. We do need to stand in our heart space, and you know, if we're a doctor and we're being told we must do this, we must do this, we must do this by an authoritarian negative agenda, you know, I would recommend that you step into your heart space and see how that feels for you. Would you accept that if that was your child or your mum? You know, would you accept that they were given that vaccine, or they must do this, or they must take this, or they must sign this paper, or they must whatever it is? Would you accept that for yourself? Would you accept it for your child? Would you accept it for your mother? Would you accept it for your brother or your sister or your sibling or your twin or whoever? And then, you know, if the answer is no, then the answer is no. Because your brother, your sister, your mother, your lover, your husband, your son, your daughter, your father, your mum has no difference. There is no difference energetically between that person over there or that customer or that client and the physical relationship. There is no difference. They are one and the same, because we are all connected. So if the answer is no, that you wouldn't do it to your mother or your brother, then get the hell out of there. Get the hell out of there. And this is what we need to do. We need to stop looking for answers and focusing on the negative stuff that's going on, and simply shift our focus and our direction on what we want to create. On what we want to create. We need to take our focus off what's being shown to us on the news and the media and what we want to create. So so in this case, it would be other remedies or other natural remedies or other options that we can use. I've heard vitamin C I've heard doctors say that vitamin C is one of the things that we can do. So look at other options. You know, either leave the system you're in and look at other options that you could maybe incorporate. Yeah, but I think that actually we need to come away from the old systems and create new ones. We need to do that. We need to stop waiting for someone to come and rescue us, because we have help and assistance, don't get me wrong, but we need to be the initiatives. We need to stand up and do the work and create systems on Earth, like Sasha Stone has done with New Earth and the new communities. You know, we need to start going back to basics and creating and creating new systems and put them in place, because what is very obvious is not working. What we have now is not working for us because it's a lower frequency. It doesn't gel with our energy.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like, I think a lot of people feel like we're in a race against time, and you know, and the crackdown is just going to continue to grow, and if we don't rise up and really, you know, say no, then even if we're, you know, a person's well intentioned, you know, because they might feel resistance or fear, you know, it's a big one. Things are to such an extreme, you know, right now that so do you think there's still just a lot of fear being spread in the news, and a lot of the things that are being spread aren't really happening? I mean, I do think, me personally, but until I talked to that client who said that that's what he's experiencing at the hospital, he had to quit his job because they're forcing vaccinations on the staff. So, you know, as this wave of losing our ability to choose might get stronger, obviously the wave of us claiming our sovereignty and not consenting has to grow bigger. And that's really the urgency of you coming to connect with me today, right? To remind people, I mean, with that and other, you know, messages, would you say that that is, am I correct in that being what
Yeah.
the message is?
Yeah, we absolutely need to come together like we never have before.
Yeah.
And unite. We need to get up off our asses, excuse me for my language, but we need to get up off our asses and unite like we never have before. You know, we need to connect with each other. If we can't do it physically, we need to do it through technology and the phone and the internet. But I would suggest that actually we start doing it physically. What I mean by that, I'm in my mind's eye, I'm seeing like I keep seeing an image of the First Nations of the maybe coming together and in sacred ceremony, and maybe creating a distance within that. So a 2 meters or a 6 meters distance, whatever distance, but to come to connect together and create sacred ceremony. You know, in the UK, we really don't have the Native Americans here, which is I find quite a lack of. There's a lack of that here. So you're really blessed in America to have that native connection, where you have the sacred teachers and the ancient people of Native America who have a vast knowledge and understanding and spiritualness to share. And you know, we need to come together en masse as much as we can, especially within the First Nations. And you know, because it's partly to do with the ascension and consciousness and awareness and unite. What's coming over to me again and again and again in the last couple of weeks is united we stand, divided we fall, divide and conquer. So, and that's been coming to me over and over and over and over again. So that's what they're working with, and they're working with fear. They suck off our fear and trauma and war and yeah, so they suck off negative energy. So we need to come together like we never have before. And I'm talking about spiritual groups as well that wouldn't necessarily connect with each other. Like UFO people are over here, and then the spiritualist people or the spiritualist churches are over here. Even within the spiritual groups, we are divided, it seems.
Yeah, that has to be healed and that has to be addressed. And it's very, very frustrating to see that, because that needed to be the example, and that needs to be mended, and those cracks need to be filled. And so people need to take, you know, that leadership role and facilitate that. But do you see like AI and if a vaccine happened and it compromised the DNA more and began to really separate one from their soul matrix? I mean, do you have any insight about what happens to that soul once it gets separated in that way? You know, because that's happened in other systems before, and you know, there isn't really any linear timeline because we're connected just as much to beings that have walked that path already, that have digressed. So are the hybrid programs to help recover from the choices that link them into the AI, would you say? Or can you speak on anything connected to these beings and this infiltration of AI?
Thanks, Laura. Okay, so what I believe to be true is that I had an out of body experience once with the Greys, and I'll cut it short because it's important. Because through the experience, what I learned is I was on the table, and I was trying to get back into my body, and I couldn't, because they put some type of block or energy where I couldn't get back into my body. Now, I'd been leaving my body for years, so I knew how to leave and I knew how to get back in, but they put some type of energy or device or something in the way where I couldn't get back into my body. Now, to me, that was very scary, because it meant my consciousness wasn't able my consciousness wasn't in control of itself. There was a block. And if we do go down the road of AI, and I hope to God, we don't. But if we do, we're not going to have control of our own consciousness. Our own consciousness is going to be overtaken by AI and artificial intelligence. So we won't have the capacity to, it's like being overtaken by AI.
Control is operating, like you're being,
yeah,
you're being used as a vessel, like
yeah.
And the hive mind of like some of the grays too, it's like they're all, I mean,
yeah, totally with you on
that. So the hybrid programs are to correct this, and some of the hybrid programs are to help to heal these beings that were caught by the AI, would you say?
I don't know too much about, I know a little bit about the AI, and I don't know too much about the other beings that you're talking about, but I do know that the Pleiadians have told me that they come from their future into our past. I think I'm wording that right. So they've come from their future into our past, which tells me that there was an event that happened where they didn't go too well, where they've come back to help us. So but if we do get overtaken by AI, it's not good. It's not good for us. So I don't see a good situation there, because if AI overtakes our consciousness, I've heard it said by someone that the consciousness can never be overtaken by AI, because it's always going to be conscious of itself. But if you have consciousness contained by AI, it will be overtaken. It's a bit like a Russian doll, where you have this consciousness inside AI or a machine, where it's controlling the consciousness, and that is not the path we want to go down. It's not the path we want to go down, because consciousness won't have the power. It won't have the power.
Yes. So when you see some of these, dark players that might be supporting AI in the world, that are all, captured into, this darker agenda, do you think that they're conscious of the ramifications to themselves, or are they just not even really in possession of themselves as we see them? Are they, well, I guess it's a mixed bag, but
yeah.
And I know others are who are struggling right now might be like, how do I connect with the Pleiadians? And are the Pleiadians going to come? Are they going to land on Earth? I mean, I get a lot of clients that are like, they don't feel connected at all. They try and connect with their higher self or a benevolent, ET group. But so 2 questions in one. Do they have plans on interacting more closely with Earth inhabitants anytime soon? Do you feel that there are imposters that we need to watch out for that represent themselves as Pleiadians, and anything you can say to people about how they can make their own direct connect? And I know that's a lot in a question, and I'm really good at doing that to people, so I apologize, but whatever you can do with what I just asked.
Yeah, it's a great question. I never had any schooling, and I went to school one day, and they basically, to cut a long story short, basically the Pleiadians put an energy wall up in front of me in the school gate, so I wasn't allowed to. They didn't allow me to go into the school system. Thank God they didn't. Which is a memory I'd forgotten, but during the shamanic courses I remembered it. I'd always remembered going to school, trying to go to school and not being able to, and just standing there for like an hour in front of the school gates, not being able to move. So the Pleiadians had, what I'd forgotten is that the Pleiadians had come in when I was just about to enter the school gates, secondary school, and they put a huge wall of energy in front of me in the gates, and they said to me, word for word, we didn't let you enter because you would have been lost to us. Are you okay?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
go ahead.
okay.
Keep going.
so they said to me, we wouldn't have, you would have been lost to us if we'd let you entered. So we didn't let you enter the school system because you would have been lost to us. So there's a huge amount of conditioning to in the school system and to kids, and that's part of it. I am different, but I'm not special. I don't have any ability at all that the rest of us don't. Especially starseeds, we are all able to connect with the Pleiadians and the Pleiadian energies. All of us. I'm not special. I'm a bit different to normal people, but I'm not special. I'm not different. There's everyone can connect to Pleiadian energies and Jesus energies. It's just that they've been taught or conditioned vastly through the school system to believe that they are far less than they really are, and the very opposite is true. So we are divine beings. We have no idea really our own capacity and who we are and where we came from and why we're here. So we need to step into our hearts. We need to unite and realize and come to understand that we are all connected, and also to meditate. Yoga, Tai Chi, singing, dancing, meditating, stepping into our own power and our own shoes. And for the people that are just waking up now, I would recommend those things, meditation and Tai Chi and laughter and yoga, and use your voice. Get a spiritual practice together. Go out and spend time in nature. Connect with the trees. Hug the trees and connect your forehead with the trees and your heart. And when you do that, that tree can, on a subtle level, if no other level, can communicate with you and connect with you and tell you and give you the information of the true Earth's history, who we are and where we came from. It's about connecting to Mother Earth, and Mother Nature is not dead, it's not stagnant. Plants have life, trees have life, animals, insects, everything that has life force within it has life force within it. So you can get this information from trees, from plants, from nature, from the earth, laying down on the earth, connecting with it. That may sound a bit strange to some people, but it's fact. You can get this information from trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think it's going to take? The healing process of survivors of human trafficking and pedophilia, and just what's we have this pandemic stuff that we're all dealing with, but then we have like the huge importance of having these rings taken down and rescuing these souls and helping to rehabilitate them, and also those that have been subject to trauma-based mind control. From your perspective, connected to the Pleiadian downloads and your relationship with them, how does one even begin to imagine just the scale of what it's going to take to help rescue and also rehabilitate and heal these souls that have been victims of this kind of thing? I mean, there's got to be just a lot of different things to help those fragmented, traumatized. I mean,
yeah.
So see as we shift into the new Earth energy, that there'll be a lot more priority on helping to rehabilitate these souls. Because it's not like we're just going to enter this peaceful Earth and all that just disappears. We're going to be having to face a lot of healing and rehabilitation and continue, rescuing. So as the dividing bifurcation happens, I get confused of, what realities we're dealing with when it comes to that. Maybe there's going to be where so many are busted and so many are able to be rescued that heralds the bifurcation. I mean, how close are we to this bifurcation? And also, do you see the new Earth energies really about the rehabilitation of all the trauma that we've endured as a human race?
Yeah, I think so.
Especially the victims of these horrific crimes.
I think so. I think it's all about balance, because we've been out of balance for so long, since the downfall of Atlantis, and now we're coming back to who we really are. So in terms of the 3D level and the reality of what's going on Earth. I think that, you know, for me personally, and I would recommend shamanic journeying or shamanic healing. It has, you know, I could have spent years in counseling, or I could have done a couple of shamanic journeys, because it takes you deeper or takes you higher in the healing process. So I would recommend shamanic journeys, shamanic healing. I think there's going to be an influx of spiritual healers going to be needed on Earth at this time, and people who are awake and aware are going to be needed, and spiritual people are going to be needed, and conspiracy theorists are going to be needed, and UFO and ancient alien people, alien enthusiasts are going to be needed. So, and spiritual coaches and astrologists, and, you know, people speaking in the public eye, and the healers and the shamans and the Reiki masters and the sound healers and the drummers and the colors healers. You know, we're all going to be needed en masse, and we can do the work we can do the work. Here's the thing, Laura, we can do the work from a distance, having no visible connection to those children. You know, if we were to send love and light and healing and meditation through meditation to those children on a mass scale, imagine the effect it would have on them. Imagine that. You know, so we need to take action. We absolutely need to take action peacefully if possible, but we need to stop just being love and light and believing that everything's going to be okay, because yes, it is, but we need to take action as well.
Thank you. That's one of the most important points, and people like really forget that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and this is why I love that you're saying, you know, that there is a need to protest and say no, and you didn't feel that before, and now
yeah.
You know, really doing the shadow work and really, you know, recognizing that we can't just love and light things away. It's taken too much of a hold. Unfortunately, people weren't able to do their inner work because they weren't believing in these things, and they were kind of just laughing it off. And now it's like, it's down to the wire.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. It's taken me like since a long time to get here, where I'm able to stand up and say that I'm a channel for the Pleiadians. You know, people don't do that overnight. They don't. So for those people who are standing in judgment and laughing and sniggering and saying, oh, she's a conspiracy theorist, you know, she believes in negative ET energies, I feel sorry for them. I really do, because, you know, it's taken me a long time to get here. You know, we don't suddenly wake up and, you know, on stage with a microphone saying I'm channeling the Pleiadians and blah blah blah. If we're genuine, there's a whole process and stuff going on behind the scenes and in our own lives, and the battles that we have to deal with, and, you know, a lot of off-world stuff as well. So we need to I think, you know, there's a lot of aspects that we need to incorporate. Yes, we need to be love and light, but now more than ever, we need to incorporate that with action and protest and activity. You know, we can no longer be in the caves meditating in Tibet without action, because otherwise it will continue the way it's always continued. So we need to take action. We need to be love and light. We need balance. We need to bring in aspects where we can move energy, we can move the forces that be, the powers that be, that are in control and running the countries around the earth, where we can stand up and say no, united. You know, we need to come together and unite. So there's several things that we can do. We do need to start with ourselves and meditating. Parallelly, we need to run alongside that and connect with each other and gather en masse, you know, gather in tribes, gather in unity, gather in love and light, and protest and meditate, and in a protective way, because I've heard it say that some groups of mass groups of meditation have been targeted. So we need to create protectiveness around us. We need to connect in with the Pleiadians to help assist us, or the likes of the Pleiadians to help to assist us. You know, we need to bring in a lot of different elements. You know, we've been targeted on a mass scale through our food, through our weather, through our through the chemtrails, through 5G, through vaccines, through whatever. It is all set to keep us down, to stop this period of time where our consciousness raises. So there's a lot of things we can do. We have the power within us. You know, whether you're a housewife in Idaho, or you're a shaman in Africa, or you're a monk in Tibet, you know, we have the power within us. Whether you feel powerful or you feel powerless, you still have the power within you to move mountains and to change what's happening within your own world and your own reality, and part of the greater awareness and consciousness and the greater humanity, you know, on a bigger scale. You have power to do that. You just don't realize that you do. So we need to start researching and looking into these things. Let yourself be guided by your heart. If you're drawn to something, if you're drawn to a book or a crystal or gardening, you know, we really need to get back to basics as well, because I have been shown that we will run short of food.
No, they're definitely gonna, yeah. I mean, it just seems like they'll continue to roll out, you know, here's where we are and these are the measures we have to take. So I'm not much of a protester at all either. But I'm also concerned that if we did a protest, then they would push the police state even more, like, oh, things are out of control and people are supposed to be distancing from each other. So there's probably a way to do it right. And I'm sure, you know, we can actually talk again and maybe see what that could look like. And I know you mentioned, you know, the gathering of the nations and more the unified positive energies that we can raise and that peaceful protest like that, where, you know, there's a positive message and there's the goal for transformation, which sounds like what you were getting at. But yeah, so sorry. I know we got to close. So why don't you kind of take us into what would you like to share that maybe we haven't had a chance to share? When you know, decided, hey, you know, we should definitely get together and we both were in agreement, I want to make sure that we didn't miss anything that was important for you to share. And yes, when they begin to say, you know, there's a food shortage and this and that, it just seems like they are desperate to create an apocalyptic Armageddon looking timeline. But a lot of it looks like actors and it's just so staged and they're just doing, you know, it's just to almost stimulate the part of our minds that have watched all those movies of, you know, what the end of the world, you know, kind of looks like, oh, and all the panic and food shortages, and less attention on let's grow food, let's embrace community, let's like pull out. There's no solutions that this mainstream culture is going to present to us, so we have to come up with them. And you're definitely making those points, but they're going to make it very, very difficult is the problem. So yeah, anything that you still want to share, and what are your thoughts about the fakery of this end of the world scenario? Not end of the world, but apocalyptic, which of course has positive meanings as well. The trickery and fakery of it with what's really real. So we know, you know, taking action and joining together, but you were talking about food shortages and stuff. So I guess my question is, what do you think about, you know, the falsity of some of this information compared to the truth? And then also anything that we might not have been able to talk about, and so that we can close and make sure that we didn't miss anything that's important for you to share.
Thanks, Laura. Okay, so this is biblical times that we're living in. This is the end of an era and the beginning of a new dawn. So it is the end, but it's not the end of the earth as we know it. Even if it does separate and become two, that will continue. So even in that sense, it's not the end. It's an end of an energy wave where we've been controlled since the time of Atlantis. That's coming to an end now. And we do have a choice. We do have, because we see it coming, and we didn't see it coming at the time of Atlantis, but we do now. So it's an end of an era. It's not the end of the world, and that's what they want you to believe, that this is
right. And that's what I mean. Yeah, how they push that and try and stimulate that sort of trauma, because there can be no end to anything because there's no real death. But yeah, so keep going. Totally.
Okay, so the so it's new beginnings. What we need to do is unite and come together and take away the fear and the illusion, because there's no going back to normal. Our normal is gone. That's gone forever. There's no going back to that. So what's happened? Thanks. So I'm just saying thanks to them. So what's happened is that this negative agenda, or the cabal, or the Illuminati, whatever you want to call it, has come in with the coronavirus, and they've put this into humanity. And we're now doubling back. I don't know if you can see that. It's almost like a tsunami, where they've put this situation into humanity on Earth, which is the coronavirus, which was designed on purpose, en masse, and pre-planned and organized, well organized. So they've put this onto us, and now it's like a tsunami. It's a wave of energy that's doubling back on itself. What they didn't realize is the mass awakening effect it would have on us. So within all the systems, what we really need to do within all the systems on Earth, and Sacha Stone has already started it, God love him, with his work in the, he's one person, one example I can give. I'm sure there's hundreds of them, but one example I can give that I know, firsthand, is Sacha Stone with his New Earth communities. So that's what we need to be doing. We need to be creating within all systems, within all systems in place on Earth. So we need to be creating new food. We need to come away from the supermarkets and relying on other people to give us food or education or water or whatever it is, or substance or money. Or we need to come back to basics, start growing our own food on our balconies if we need to. Whatever space we can, whether it's pot plants, whatever space we can, if it's a small garden, if it's an allotment, if it's a balcony, if it's a small piece of land, the bigger the better. We need to move out of the cities, come back to nature, connect with the earth, start growing our own fruits, our own vegetables that are not sprayed, that are chemicalless, have no, less chemicals, no chemicals. Water, we need to be drinking water that is not filled with fluoride and other nasty chemicals and things put into the water. So clean water, clean food, clean health, natural remedies. We need to start coming away from the city, start creating communities in love and light and higher awareness, higher consciousness. But I also feel that the First Nations really need to be part of this. I feel such a strong I feel like I need to reach them, Laura, where I need to pull them together. The ones in Native America, the ones in Africa, the ones in Ireland, the ones in Egypt, the ones in wherever they are. It's like they need to get together, and they need to connect together and sacred ceremony and come up with ideas and creativity and plans to put into place on Earth now, because we need to shift our perspective, our the false lie that we've been the false lie that we've been shown. We're waking up to that now, and the wave of we're shifting our perspective. So we need to create new systems as soon as possible. We need to start growing our food now. We need to start creating new school systems. We need to start creating new laws, the natural laws that govern us and the universe, the natural laws of man. We need to take our power back. We need to stand united. We need to gather. The spiritual groups as well need to unite. They're so separate from each other. The spiritualists are over there, and the ancient aliens are over there. Ancient alien enthusiasts or UFO believers are over there. So we need to come together and unite like we've never done before. So important.
And we need to do it now, because the clamp down is just going to grow. So the wave, it's like an immune system increasing to wipe out a disease. But if we don't focus on the immune system and increasing it, then this thing is like a cancer. It wants to gobble us up. Yeah.
Also, just quickly, Laura, I've also been shown that there will be, a couple of weeks ago I was shown, when I started to connect in with them again, with the Pleiadians, is that there will be UFO sightings en masse around the Earth that won't be shown on the news or media. And that's started to happen now. And also, I'd be surprised if there wasn't some kind of genuine landing. So I'd be surprised if there wasn't, because they're here en masse. You know, they've never.
They're here in mass.
Sorry,
Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, it's just that they're, you know, they've never left us. They never left. What's happened is that our DNA was changed and lowered. Our frequency was lowered to the point we didn't have the ability to connect with them. So, so our, you know, our DNA is raising now, but also there was a blanket of amnesia placed around the Earth. So they've never left. They've always been there. It's just that our awareness wasn't able to tap in for so long to them. So all of us can channel the Pleiadians. All of us can connect to Jesus. All of us can connect to our higher selves and our.
There are souls. Right. But people have to get real close though with, because to me, you know, our inner guidance knows exactly what we need to do. We have to act upon it though. Yeah. We hold the solutions. We are born with the solutions. We're prepared for the times that we're in, but some aren't able to decipher between imposter beings and ones that are really genuine. There's, you know, holographic technologies that could make one look like a Nordic or a Pleiadian or a benevolent being when it's actually reptilian. So we have to, you know, be careful of the imposters, because there's definitely people connecting into beings that are actually creating more trouble than it's worth, but appear to be of the light. And I know we got to close. Anything you want to say, just to remind people to have that extra discernment in these times?
Yeah, no, great point, Laura. Great point, because I would have probably forgotten how important that was. To say that, how, you know, to say that. That's extremely important. You know, even myself, I've been targeted by negative ET energy that I thought was a Pleiadian and wasn't. So, you know, when you get someone like who is a genuine channel for the Pleiadians and channeling quite high frequencies and a high energy and high knowledge and wisdom, when you get someone like that who is who you know, you have to be, who mistakes that energy for Pleiadian energy, because energy can and does masquerade itself as something that it's not. So you can get, and you do get, negative ET energies or reptilian energies that come in and disguise themselves as being Pleiadian energy, which I've experienced, and are not those energies. So you have to be so careful. You have to make sure again and again and again and again. And basically it comes down to how it makes you feel. If it makes you feel love and light, that's the difference, because those energies cannot have they don't have the ability to come in with the amount of love that the Pleiadians do. And when you feel that as a channel, when you feel that amount of love and light that they have on a heart level, the Pleiadians, then the reptilians and the negative ETs and agendas, they cannot give that vibration off to you, because they don't have it within themselves. You can't give something that you don't have. So that's a good way to recognize and familiarize yourself with the Pleiadian energy. When you feel that love connection coming towards you, you can't disguise that. So I would you know, like you were saying, Laura, I do need to really stress that it's so important to make sure it's not negative energy, or energy disguising itself as something that it's not, because spirit can do that as well. Any energy can disguise itself as something that it's not. So you need to check in, you know, you need to check in with yourself and with that energy. Who is that? You know, you need to make absolutely certain and sure. And it may take a number of years to do that. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Anything that we weren't able to cover? I know we covered a lot more than we probably set out to do, and I really, really appreciate your time and all the incredible things that you've, shared with us. And I mean, there's always so much more than an interview can express. So everybody really needs to check out her website. She's got a second book coming out. So yeah, any final thoughts, and then kind of take us into where we can find you, what your website is, maybe the names of both of your books. And I know you got banned from Amazon for one of them, and maybe just tell us, maybe if you have a moment for that. And I know I could end up talking to you for hours if I keep asking you questions, but yeah, any final thoughts, and then maybe tell us about what happened with your book, and then how to find you and where people can find your material.
Thanks, Laura. Okay, well, we step away from the fear, meditate, get together, unite. Maybe that I feel maybe I shouldn't say this. I don't know. But let's see where that goes. Okay, so I feel drawn, Laura, to maybe doing some work with you where we do connect the First Nations to get together. But anyway, I'll leave that at that for now. So, okay, so my website is thepleiadianchild.com, as is all my social media is thepleiadianchild.com. Sorry, the Pleiadian Child or Carol Noonan. I have written a book on the coronavirus, or what's really going on now, and I do need to update it, because I thought I'd finished channeling the information about it, and I hadn't. So I was given new information, and then new information, new information. So I need to update it, and then I'm going to try and see if I can actually find a publisher for it. So if anyone is interested in that.
Did we miss anything about a message about that, or should we wait till you've completed the process of the channel? Is there anything we weren't able to cover, or should we just wait and maybe connect again when you feel like it's completed?
I think, yeah, I think maybe wait until it's completed, because
okay, cool.
yeah.
Keep going though. I just wanted to throw that in.
Okay. We need to just come away from the lie that we've been the program on all the programming, and create systems on Earth where we're taking the initiative in our own hands. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for someone to come and rescue us. Take back the power. Yeah.
Right. Develop integrity and compassion, and some of the things we talked about in the beginning, which are just basic things, as just being a spiritual being doesn't need to be complicated. It's a natural, organic thing to just be a decent person who is looking to unify with others, which is a point we keep saying. So yeah, and the time is now, not to wait for permission. It's like stop waiting for instructions, and that old paradigm has to collapse. We need to take instructions from our higher self, from our inner voice, and this is like the main themes that we've really been covering. This outer authority has just gotten ridiculous. The only authority we should listen to are the ones that are supporting and guiding us to develop our higher potential and our ability to utilize all our skills and abilities and work together as a global family. And you really hit those points. And these are, really important reminders, and people need these reminders all the time. So yeah, keep going with that. I just had to just blurt that out. I hope that was okay. But yes, the time is now. So keep going with that. Don't wait for permission, people.
Yeah. This prophecy, the Rainbow Warrior prophecy has been written about for God knows how many years, probably thousands of years, and they were prophesized as being different colors. I think it was red, yellow, black, and green, or something like that. I can't remember the colors now, but mainly four different races or people coming together. So we are the Rainbow Warriors. We are, which is another word for star seeds. You know, we don't come from here. We have a purpose. We have a mission. Even if you don't feel like you've got any power or any purpose or any mission, you do. You absolutely do. You have a purpose, a mission, a reason for being here. Stop believing the lie that you are less than, that you cannot do this or you cannot do that, or you cannot stop something, or you don't have a voice, because you absolutely do. Find your voice, find your power, stand in your own power, stand in your own shoes, claim back your sovereignty, claim back your power, pick up your etheric sword, pick up your etheric weapons, and fight. You know, we're here en masse, and we're here together, we're here united. We need to come together, Laura, like we never have before. Like we never have before. You know, we are not alone.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's going to lift the veil. It's going to, I mean, this is a significant time. The gateways are opening. We're in this ascension window. And the conquer and divide agenda, like you were mentioning, has made it so difficult. People are very superficially drawn into the conflict, into the battles, into the belittling, into the shaming, into the self-righteous, like I have all the answers, arrogance. And it's just like, it's almost like the ego keeps missing the mark, and it just can't stand in alignment with one's soul essence and spirit, and just, you know, being the divine being that we truly are underneath it all. And we are being pushed like never before to have to do this, to come together and to bring out the best in each other and support the healing process. We're coming out of, like, you know, ancestral patterns. We all have difficult paths. We're not perfect, but let's, So I'm so glad that you're you know, this is a reunion. So we got to let the adversity like push us into this beautiful reunion and get on it, right? Like you're saying.
Yeah, we need to get on board. It's a ride. It's the ride of our lives. And it's not just humans. It's also extraterrestrials and Pleiadians and different
this gets back to the whole galactic multidimensional too. Yes.
Yeah, and we need to get on board. It's a train ride of the century. We need to get on board and unite and come together and like we never have before. And I've even noticed on Facebook there's spiritual people or healers or whoever, you know, saying stuff that is shocks the hell out of me. To other spiritual people and other healers, you know, where is that negative mentality coming from? Because it's not coming from
spiritual arrogance, sort of. Yeah, I get it. The spiritual lecturing that you mean, is that what you're talking about?
It is. Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, you know, get off Facebook. Facebook is one of the most negative things. Has a lot of negative. Has a very negative agenda. And he is hugely censored, especially now for a lot of people. So, and Laura, I saw the thing the other day, love, where your files were ripped off, or your pages were ripped off. You know,
they were threatening, but some people think it might be a scam. But I mean, it was a legitimate email with a link, and it was a page I created in 2011. I have over 300,000 people that are on it, and I have like so much writing there, and it's a big risk. You can't expect that your intellectual property is going to be protected, and you know, so I understand that risk. But yeah, it's very compromised. The best part, of course, is us all connecting, but we're just gonna, you know, the thing is, consciousness and awakened souls and people that aren't vulnerable to mind control, none of this stuff is going to work. All these attempts to shut us down is not going to work, and so we will continue to find ways around all the things that they're trying to do to, you know, shut us up. And like you said in the very beginning, hold, you know, compassion and understanding, and, you know, and help those that are really struggling with this waking up process.
I think what you did with the declaration of sovereignty is really important. And I think I felt when you did it, I felt a strong feminine energy within it. And I think that individually we need to do our own declaration of sovereignty within ourselves, and pick up our etheric swords and our etheric weapons, and unite and create communities within school systems, within permaculture and gardening and systems that replace the old systems and the old paradigm and the old illusion, because we need to create something new. We can no longer focus on how to get out of it. We just need to get into the new, and to stop focusing on how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? This is this money or this controlling me. Just step out of it and create something new.
I've been feeling that real strong. You know, it's time to put our energy and attention on building the world that we want to see. And it's important to expose as much as possible to hold accountable those that are criminals and those that are still walking around, and send good energy to the current administration. But to get entangled in it all is taking vital life force, and it needs to be directed towards transformation and building the world we want to see, gathering and connecting, and just being like, you know, we don't have to be hooked into that. That's what it wants. It's a vampiric system. It's parasitic. It requires our mental attention and our belief for it to, you know, but we can know it's there. We don't have to be in denial. But yes, we have to put our attention on building the world we want to see, healing relationships, and doing, you know, things that that our deeper, you know, calling is showing up as. I mean, we all have, you know, something huge to contribute, and we do have the direction within ourselves to know exactly what needs to be done. And this other thing just does not deserve to be fed, because it requires siphoning our energy to even exist. The Illuminati and the Cabal wouldn't be able to exist unless we were feeding it.
Yeah.
And it's been vampiring us off of us long enough. And so this is their final attempt to convince everybody that they need vaccinations. And hopefully this wave of people feeling empowered to say no will just continue to grow the more we put, you know, these sort of videos out. But yeah,
you're absolutely right, Laura. And I really get you. I don't know. I just feel like I just get where you're coming from, you know. Okay, so yeah, no, I absolutely agree with everything you've said. And
yeah, it's just, you know, calling our power back, not letting it hook into our mental body anymore. Our higher mind and how that connects to source, you know, overrides everything. It's the override frequency. It is the ultimate, you know, power over all this that they really just, you know, want to trick us out of, you know, being able to connect with. But every single person, you know, can overcome this. And it's not about, you know, battling it and trying to change it. The change has to happen within. And I always say we win the war within ourselves, because like you know, it's a war on consciousness. And also to refuse this divide and conquer. So yeah, any final thoughts, and then we'll get the name of the books. And I think you already shared your website, but we definitely have to close, or we could just talk all day, which I would love. But
yeah, no, I could talk all day as well.
And it's so refreshing. And the thing is, we have to keep these conversations alive. It doesn't matter how much, you know, we might have even repeated ourselves in this interview. The thing is, these points need to be hit home. And the power of our voice is a frequency that can offset the dark, lower energies and frequencies of these, you know, dangerous technologies. Our voice frequency, you know, it can actually neutralize and change those, you know, energies. Instead of just being compliant and just allowing it to injure us, we have to amplify the energy even more in order to sort of dissolve it and neutralize it.
That's a really good point, Laura. And something I want to bring up there is that, you know, whenever I'm getting targeted, or my own power being taken away from me, and then I go and do the work, and I use my voice, and I stand up and I say what I know to be true, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And it's kind of become like it's like a pattern now. It's a pattern. And I only noticed the pattern the other day, but so that's a message there for everyone, really, to you know, to build your energy, build yourself up, build your self-esteem, build your self-assertiveness, your self-voice, your self-love, your self-light, your self-worth, your self-esteem. And it's no coincidence now that the people, the women are in abusive relationships have been leaving them. That's also a link, that's also energetically that's kind of riding the storm as well, riding the wave, where energetically people are coming away from that and getting out of abusive relationships, because as they're stuck at home, the men have become more violent and more abusive. So that negativity and abuse and violence has actually triggered those women to come away from that. So it's backfired on them. So I do see a positive outcome, but we need to take action, because if we don't, then perhaps there isn't a positive outcome. I don't know, but we need to take action. We need to unite. We need to get together. And I know I'm repeating myself, and
but you know, it's just a part of it. I mean, I repeat myself all the time, and when we look at mantras and people chanting, they're constantly repeating themselves. So there's nothing wrong with repeating. It's just, you know, there's a consistency, and consistency is so important, because we can have a great idea and be really, really connected, and then all of a sudden we get whacked. We might lose our grounding. We might start to, you know, connect into an anxiety, and it's a total sabotage in that moment. So sometimes repeating oneself allows it to like get more grounded, get more real. And you know, we have to speak our reality into manifestation. We have to, I mean, that's the whole nature of the magician. Our words create our reality. So I think it helps. And when we speak too much fear, when we are in that sort of doom and gloom, you know, and we persist in that too long, you know, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. There's nothing wrong with venting or moving through some of the shadow stuff, but it's definitely not something we want to consistently, you know, amplify. And so if there's a consistent amplification of conflict and division in the community, it needs to be offset by probably being redundant with these unity messages, because I'm right there with you. I could say it over and over and over again, but in a lot of ways, it can start to repair the tears in the auric field of the bubble we should have held as a conscious community, regardless whether it was more on the UF end of it or ascension. That's a huge responsibility. And so I feel like people like you and me are stitching up like doctors, you know, the tears and the wounds, and sending a lot of love and good energy to the potential that we still can carry. But I feel like the unity messages, you know, heal also the tears in ourselves that make us very vulnerable to all sorts of negative forces as well. Because words are power. Words are power. Words create magic if we use the right ones.
Yeah, and also the trauma as well. I think what we're really doing is healing the trauma in humanity. And I think that's really why we're here, or part of it. And also, you know, when we our thoughts are creative, but our words are also creative. So when you speak about something, whether it's positive or negative, you're giving it affirmation, you're giving it power, you're giving it more intention, you're kind of putting a stamp on the seal, so to speak, where you're voicing it, you're creating it even more and more and more, you're giving it more power, more, you know, intention. So, and you know, if you talk about negative energy, if you verbalize it, that energy can start to come in. And the same can be said for whatever you're talking about. You know, it could be love and light, or it could be Star Nations, or it could be Auntie Nellie, or it could be positive spirit, or Auntie Mary. So whatever you're talking about, you also create on that level as well.
Right. And that's why it's so important, you know, for relationships or for a child to hear, I love you, even if it's redundant. How many times a day do we have to hear, or we want to hear, or feel compelled to share, I love you? You know, we are on the phone, I love you. You know, if they don't say I love you back, it can ruin a person's day. It's like, what? So yeah, I mean, reinforcement of the good stuff. And that's how the archons get sort of pushed out. They can't really get in. You know, if we're triggered in fear or self-doubt, or we don't know what somebody else is thinking, you know, I mean, a huge thing that we're repairing is our capacity to have healthy communication, nonviolent communication, communication that supports health and well-being, because it makes or breaks everything. You know, I mean, we know that some people are crushed by even a comment that's negative under a post. Some people aren't ready for the trolls or ready for, you know, that kind of thing. So let's be more responsible with our words and how we communicate with each other, because that is part of rebuilding the world we want to see, is being conscious and mindful of what we're putting out there and generating into the collective.
Yeah, especially at these times and on social media like Facebook, because there's, I'm starting to get messages from people I would consider friends saying, "Oh, please don't send me that," or please don't post that, or please don't, I sent that message yesterday about the new law that came in to he didn't want me to send it to him. So yeah.
So I know we kind of got to close, and you did say the name of your website, right?
Yeah, it's the Pleiadianchild.com, and that's all my social media. It's either Carol Noonan or the Pleiadian Child. So if anyone wants to reach me, they can do that there. But also, if you would like a copy of the new book, if you send me an email to the Pleiadian Child at hotmail.com, then I'll as soon as I can, once I've updated that, I'll send you a copy of it. I'm going to put a small price on it, of $3.77, I think, for the ebook.
Well, that's wonderful. Did you have something else?
No, I think that's it, Laura.
Well, I want to thank you so much, and also, also sharing, how much you faced, the darkness in your own life, and how, this opened up to you. And, it's very important for people to hear that. And, to me, leadership has to include some level of transparency, to just really, help, people in these dark times, and how that, facing the worst of it all, even feeling suicidal, something can, come through and just really help to uplift us. We have to know it's there. We have to know that the healing, is available. We're built with it. It's something, within ourselves. And like you said, everybody can make contact with their higher self and with these benevolent beings. And, we are facing a huge dark night of the soul on the planet, and people are really losing it. And draw some inspiration from this woman, because, she faced some serious darkness. I have as well. And it's come back around, and it's only given us, I think, greater strength and ability to, understand the psychology of feeling very cut off, because the system is not very accommodating of star seeds and the greater, more advanced type teachings and the things that we really need to know. And so sensing that something's wrong can make people feel like they can't be here anymore. But that's all changing, because there's a lot of us coming together, and we will create new structures, new schools, new educational systems, and everything to get it in alignment and do it right. And thank you so much for amplifying and just really, bringing these messages and reminders to us, because we have what it takes. And, we're purifying the negative ego and any attachment to that dark cabal and that dark system that's artificial, and the true authenticity is rising, and it comes so natural. This isn't going to take a lot of effort. Just feel into yourself, to get very comfortable with who you are and the guidance that you're getting, and that's all we need. So thank you so much for joining us, and much love to you. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Take care. Bye.